This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Well, I just got back from Pax Unplugged, and since it's the first time this convention ever existed, I thought you might want to know, for those that didn't go, what was it like there? So I'm going to do sort of a pros and cons review of the experience from two different perspectives. One as the attendee, and two as an industry professional, because sometimes a lot of people are both of those, and sometimes we have people on both sides of the fence. So here we go. So the location, it was in Philadelphia, and the area that it was in was downtown, right by the convention center. There was a lot of sightseeing that you could do around in that neighborhood. There's tons of stuff there. I mean, we just had a couple of extra hours while we were waiting for the booths to get set up and have a few things ready. I ended up meeting up with my friends from the Dice Tower that I used to work with at the Dice Tower, and we went on a sightseeing tour, a quick tour, just walking distance from the convention center. We went and saw the Liberty Bell. We went to Independence Hall, where the Constitution was talked about and created. So there were some cool things there that you could do in that area. There's a lot to do from just walking distance. And on the fringe there, let's talk about food while we're at the actual area. You can walk right outside and there are a ton of food options. Just normal restaurants, but there also right across the street was this thing called Reading Terminal Market, which if you've ever been to Origins was very similar to the North Market there in Origins, except this one was probably 2 to 3 times larger. So picture that North Market if you've been there, but my gosh, amazing food. All great choices. I got a cheesesteak there. There was a place called Valley Sheep that had their own cheese that they made on their farms. They made grilled cheeses with them. I got some French crepes. It was awesome. So if you like good food at conventions and you don't want to be stuck in an airport or, not without a lot of food options, the food options here were great. Now, the convention itself, typically there's 2 types of conventions. You've got the typical buying or commerce type conventions like Gen Con or Essen. Then you have the mainly playing conventions like Board Game Geek Con and Dice Tower Con. And then you have the conventions that are sort of in the middle. Origins is one of those, and I felt PAX was just like this. It had a great blend of sort of exhibit hall and commerce side of things, but also lots of things around playing and tournaments and panels and things like that. So for me, that's how this sort of ranges. It's right in the middle in that sweet spot there. Now they did have 3 different theaters. They had 2 small, quote unquote smaller, but they were pretty big, and then 1 huge main theater. There were plenty of panels that you could go to in all different subjects, from miniatures paintings to D&D things to board game things. I know the Dice Tower did the top 10. I know Shut Up and Sit Down did their show there, and I was really impressed with the screen, the technology, the AV systems in these theaters were just amazing. They were better than anything I'd ever heard before, so that was a good positive. So all in all, this felt very similar to Origins, both in the area. So you had an exhibit hall, and the exhibit hall, again, probably felt about the same size as Origins. Maybe it was a little bit bigger. So I got to go up to the media room, and through that media room, you could actually see the entire exhibit hall. And I got to take some shots both before the convention opened, just to get the lay of the land and see what it felt like empty. And so, yeah, big exhibit hall. Then over to the left, there was the big play area. There was a sea of tables, which I don't know how many were there, but just by gandering over there, it seemed to be maybe as many tables as you'd see in the big hall in the BGG Con. There was also a first look area where they had sort of it's similar to, say, the hot games room at BGG Con, where they had all the hot Essen releases at different spots on the tables, and they had these people that would help you teach the games. So there's also a set of people and staff that were amazing. These people were called enforcers, and if anything was going wrong, they would radio, and within a couple of minutes, a minute or two, there'd be a staff of people helping things out, and it was just really well run. I was very impressed. Of course, PAX is not new at running big conventions. We shouldn't have been surprised, but wow, it was super well run. So overall, it was a lot of fun. And the different days did feel different. Friday and Sunday felt about the same. Saturday was absolutely packed, but even with that being said, it didn't feel like Gen Con packed, where it was like claustrophobic and you couldn't even get through the aisles. The aisles were really wide, and even when it was really crowded, it never felt overcrowded. So I like that about it. So was there any cons I could say, or anything that could be improved? Well, it is in the Northeast. I come from Arizona, which was left 80 degrees. I thought I packed correctly, but apparently I didn't. It was really cold there, but from what I heard from the locals, it was actually beautiful and warm for that time of year. But I did get really cold and shivered walking around for food and things at night because it really got chilly towards the night. So it's a little bit in a cold climate. I'd love to see one of these larger conventions, especially in this time of year, be on sort of a more West Coast or southern spot, closer to me or California where the weather's really nice, because that's the time you want to go there. Now, it did have a lending library there where you could just go in with your badge, you could pick out a game, get in line, check it out, and then play it in one of those big play areas and check it back in. Now, the library itself was not huge. I'd say for the size of the convention that this was, the library probably should have been bigger. In my mind, I'm thinking about BGG Con, and that library is just awesome. The Dice Tower library, the Dice Tower Con libraries have gotten a lot bigger, and they pick great things. And not to say that there weren't good games there, not to say there weren't, something that you could probably find, but I hope that they intend to make that library bigger, because obviously there were a lot of people on the tables, as I saw. So I think it'd be better to make that library a little bit bigger. Also, it was really hard to find people, especially on Saturday. It was really big. If you're at one of those tables just in the big gaming area, there were no row or column sort of letters or numbers to help find what table you're at. And we found it pretty hard to find people at different times there. So I hope in the future they take that on, sort of how BGG Con does it, where they have big signs up that say, row P, number 5, I'm right there. And they need to do that because this is a big enough convention that it was really hard to find people. And the convention itself was shorter than most major conventions. It was just Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's a lot of travel, a lot of expenses, and it was only 3 days. I really wish they'd do at least one more day, maybe do a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like many of the other conventions that are out there. So that's sort of my thoughts from the attendee perspective. What is it like from sort of an industry professional standpoint? Well, for the main reason people were going to PAX Unplugged was it was the first one and we wanted to see what it was all about. But also we felt like it was going to bring a lot of newer people into the hobby and into this section of conventioning and board gaming. And I think this did that for sure. So I think that the attendees that came to this were exactly what we hoped they would be. I couldn't tell you how many times I was walking around and people would stop me and they'd say, hey, I like your videos. And a lot of them would say the same thing. They'd say, this is my first big con. And over and over and over, I kept hearing this because maybe they live way up in the Northeast and Origins is just too far and Gen Con's just too far. So a lot of people, it was their first big convention. I thought that was really cool because, again, the more new people we can get into these things, the better the industry is going to be, the healthier it will be, the faster it will grow. I talked to a lot of publishers walking around over the different days, asking them how things were going, what was the pulse of what you were feeling there. And I got almost a consensus on everything. Everyone sort of felt the same, which was our demo tables were always full. Which is good news. Although me as an attendee, I waited for a few demos. I never had to wait that long. Some of them I slipped right in. Some I just had to wait a little bit towards the end. But I would agree with that. The tables were always full. So it looked really good because people were always demoing and things were always, traffic was always coming in and new people were sitting down and playing. So that was really good. I do think that it was reaching a new demographic and geographic audience, which is the main reason for this. I think that it did what we hoped there. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the staff was amazing. I had heard some of the publishers where things had gone wrong, and man, they said it got fixed faster than they'd ever seen. They were treated nicer than they had ever been at any other convention from the staff. So that's a really great thing from the industry or publisher's perspective. Any cons from the industry perspective? Most everybody had told me that, when you demo a lot of things, again, they were busy demoing, and a lot of other conventions, people will either come right up and buy a game, or they'll demo it, and if they like it, they'll buy it, and then they'll go. This one, almost everybody, they were saying, the majority of people would demo it, they'd say, oh, I really like this. How much is it? Okay. And they'd take a picture, they go, okay, we're gonna put this on the list, and we're gonna see. So, because a lot of these people were new to this, they were probably walking in there, they were demoing games, and they're saying, wow, this game's really cool. And then they go to the next booth, they're like, hey, this game's really cool. And they're realizing that there are so many good games out there that I think they wanted to wait to make their buying decisions. So it was a little bit of a different process than what we were used to from the publisher side of people demoing and buying games. But what I did hear a lot was a lot of these people did come back the last hour, maybe because they had to go through and then decide which game they really wanted to buy or games. Maybe it was because they just don't want to carry the games around the convention all day long. But I heard that the people did more in the 2 last hours than they had done for the rest of the day, and I heard that from a lot of people. I also heard that sales in general were maybe a little slower than they had hoped, I guess there was one booth that was selling like these big, large wooden abstract games that said, we did even better than we did at Gen Con. But other than that, the standard sort of hobby board gaming people said it was good. It ended up being not bad. It wasn't like amazing. It wasn't to the point where, you know, it was better than, say, Origins or Gen Con or anything like that, but it still did okay towards the end, and I think those last hour sales helped that. Another comment is the timing of the convention. Obviously, this happened the same week as BGG Con, so many publishers had to either choose one or the other, and some of them had to have split staff, one here, one there, and I'm sure that was a logistical nightmare. Now, the future timing of the convention, I've heard, I don't know if it's official, but I've heard it's going to be the week after Thanksgiving in 2018, which to me, sure, fixes the problem of the overlap, but doesn't really fix the problem of the general timing of this convention. But maybe they're just saying, you know what, we really want this to be two different types of people. The people that go to BGG Con are going to be different than the people that go to PAX, maybe because of location, maybe because of interests. But I would imagine that most attendees will probably go to one or the other. Maybe now if they're in the South or the West, they'll go to BGG, and if they're in the Midwest or the Northeast, they'll go to PAX. But I'm not sure what's going to happen. I really would have rather seen them, especially because it's in a cold location, to do something when there isn't a big convention, like maybe the end of first quarter, maybe, you know, Marchish or something like that, somewhere, you know, before or after Gamma, where there's not really a big convention. Then they could probably even grow faster, because then you could get the same people that are going to BGG Con maybe would also go to PAX, and they won't be splitting attendance. So I think next year they're still going to split attendance. Publishers at least will be able to have one staff at each, but they're going to be traveling, then going to Thanksgiving, then traveling again, and that's going to probably wreak a little bit more havoc too. So I don't know. I think the future timing of it could have still been different, but who knows? I know that there's many things they have with all different PAX types all over the world, different conventions. And so this was probably the best time that wouldn't interfere with all the planning of the other conventions. But from both, I think from an industry professional and from an attendee point, I think we really would have liked it in like maybe Q1 where nobody else was there. But overall, from the publisher standpoint, that's what I thought. So I hope this gave you a good feel of PAX and the pros and cons from an attendee and industry or publisher's perspective. Am I going to go next year? I'm not sure. I'm going to have to see. My main reason for going this year was to check it out, to see what it's about. My main reason for going to a convention in this time frame anyways is to get and play the latest Essen releases, because I usually don't go that far to the other side of the world. And BGG Con's going to be a little bit earlier next year, so it'll allow me to see those games a week or two earlier, so I might do that. Plus, it's a lot closer to me, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I still have a lot of planning to do for next year. I'll probably be at one of those two next year, but I hope this gave you a good sense of what PAX Unplugged was like. This has been the Game Boy Geek, helping you find and enjoy the next board game you'll love.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.